Today we're looking at the return of Germany's most controversial broadcaster, who somehow landed back on her feet. A German chancellor declaring war on extremism in university lecture halls, a satirist paying the price for a joke that crossed invisible lines, customs agents hunting down your vacation flowers, a former French president writing from his prison cell, and a stunning declaration from across the Atlantic that officially labels us the problem. And trust me, I've saved the most unsettling revelation for the very end of this episode. I spent years inside one of those big mainstream newsrooms, the kind with marble lobbies and editors who care more about the narrative than the truth. I watched them bury inconvenient facts, spin stories to fit agendas, and I realized I had a choice: stay comfortable or walk away with my integrity intact. So I left. Now I operate independently. I answer to no corporate overlords, and I bring you the stories that matter without the filter. That's the promise I make to you every single time. And speaking of promises, if you value this kind of independent analysis, the kind that digs beneath the headlines and connects the dots they don't want connected, hit that like button right now and subscribe to this channel. But here's what I really want to ask you today. We do something here that's becoming increasingly rare. We fact-check relentlessly. We verify sources. We spend hours making sure we're not feeding you the fake news that floods every other platform. That work isn't easy, and it's only possible because of viewers like you who believe in what we're doing. So if you're in a position to sponsor this channel, even in a small way, it would mean the world to me, and it keeps this operation running without compromising our independence. And please stay with me until the end, because what I'm about to reveal in the final segment will reframe everything you thought you knew about where we stand in the world right now. The world we thought we understood has completely jumped the tracks. If you believe 2024 was turbulent, December 2025 just delivered a cold shower that would sober up even the most stubborn optimists. Today's news doesn't read like a typical bulletin. It reads like the script for some grotesque dystopia where the corrupt climb back into power, satirists face prosecution for words, former presidents count their days in solitary confinement, and our primary ally across the ocean officially declares us civilizational dead weight. We're standing at the edge of tectonic shifts, and I've got 6 pieces of evidence that the old Europe is living through its final peaceful days. First up, Germany, still reeling from inflation shocks and political chaos, just received a slap that's ringing in the ears of every single taxpayer. Patricia Schlesinger, the former director of RBB and the living symbol of everything rotting inside the public broadcasting system, is back in the game. You'd think after the monumental scandal of 2022, her career would have been buried beneath the rubble of her own ambitions. We remember every sordid detail of that disgrace: massage chairs installed in her official Audi, a car that cost 150,000 euros because apparently the burden of power was too heavy for the director's delicate back, lavish dinners hosted in her private apartments, paid for by ordinary Germans, where so-called business meetings looked more like feasts fit for Roman patricians. There was that one dinner for Berlinale chief Marietta Rissenbeek that cost over 200 euros, or those legendary official gatherings featuring her husband Gerhard Spörl and Berlin's police chief, events that cost the broadcaster thousands upon thousands. And let's not forget the echo from that office renovation scandal: 1.4 million euros for new floors and Italian furniture, an echo that hasn't faded yet. But now Schlesinger has found herself a nice warm position somewhere new. This is a spit in the face of everyone who dutifully pays their broadcast contribution fee. Her return isn't just a personnel decision, it's a diagnosis of the entire German elite. We take care of our own. While regular citizens are cutting back on heating costs, the architects of this system, the ones who burned through millions on parquet floors and designer furnishings, are demonstrating phenomenal unsinkability. Society is asking the obvious question: if even abuses this blatant don't lead to social ostracism, what exactly counts as a transgression in modern Germany? But here's where things get even more intriguing, because while the elites are busy entertaining themselves, there's a real war happening on the streets and inside lecture halls, a war over identity itself. Federal Chancellor Friedrich Merz from the CDU, whose rhetoric grows harsher with each passing crisis, just threw down an open challenge to the higher education system. His visit to Hanover Medical School became a turning point in the country's cultural policy. Merz isn't mincing words anymore. He stood there and declared, "Those who come to us from the Muslim world must remember we are a secular state." This is a direct response to the creeping radicalization of campuses that liberal university administrators have preferred to ignore for years. What triggered the Chancellor's fury were outrageous incidents at Kiel University and Berlin's Charité, where student groups tied to extremist ideologies effectively imposed gender segregation, seating men and women on opposite sides of auditoriums, and inviting preachers who promote deeply conservative interpretations of religious texts. Merz thundered, "We will not allow German universities to become branch offices of medieval institutions." He's demanding immediate action from university leadership, calling for what he describes as necessary cleaning. His words about tolerance not meaning surrender to outdated worldviews are resonating with a silent majority, but they're triggering hysteria among activists on the left. This isn't just a political discussion anymore. This is a battle over who gets to shape the minds of the next generation, an enlightened Europe or something far more regressive. Merz has made his bet, and there's no retreat available. And you're probably wondering, does this kind of tough talk actually lead to consequences, or is it just political theatre? Well, let me tell you what happens when regular Germans say the wrong thing. Because if radicals in universities only get a finger wagged at them, native Germans get punished with cold hard cash for incorrect speech. In Dresden, a show trial just wrapped up that'll end up in textbooks as an example of strangling free expression in the name of new ethics. A satirist and AfD member named Elmar Gerke was sentenced to a fine of €1,200 for insulting a Bundestag deputy from the Greens, Tessa Ganserer. Judge Thomas Henschel was merciless, calling Gerke's performance malicious defamation that crossed the boundaries of what's permissible. The heart of the conflict lies in the intersection of biology and ideology. Gerke allowed himself to question Ganserer's identity in crude satirical terms, and he paid the price. This verdict creates a dangerous precedent. Now, any joke about a politician's self-identification can be treated as a criminal act. Society is split down the middle. For some, this is a triumph of justice and protection for vulnerable groups. For others, it's the beginning of an era of digital totalitarianism, where you can get a criminal record for telling the wrong joke. That €1,200 isn't just a fine, it's a price tag the state just hung on freedom of expression for opinions that don't align with the party line. Meanwhile, German bureaucracy continues living its own life against this backdrop of global upheaval, producing prohibitions that border on the absurd. The Agriculture Ministry just issued the strictest warning for all vacationers. Forget about bringing home an exotic flower or even a harmless potted plant. New EU rules, supposedly introduced to combat pests like the Japanese beetle, have turned any green souvenir into contraband. From now on, anyone who dares to pack an innocent orchid without a phytosanitary certificate, which is harder to obtain than a US visa, risks not only losing the plant, which will be destroyed right at the border, but also paying a substantial fine. This looks like mockery. While undocumented migrants and extremist ideologies seep through Europe's borders without hindrance, customs officers with dogs will be hunting down grandmothers carrying geraniums. No flowers in your suitcase. That slogan sounds like an epitaph for common sense in a country where bureaucracy has definitively triumphed over life itself. But wait, because while Germany fights flowers and satirists, France is watching the fall of one of its titans, and this story has all the elements of a revenge drama written from behind bars. Former President Nicolas Sarkozy, convicted in connection with Libyan financing allegations, just released memoirs from prison titled Diary of a Prisoner. The book hits shelves on December 10th, and it's already positioned to become a bestseller. Sarkozy spent 20 days in a cell measuring 9 square meters in the infamous La Santé prison, and he's comparing himself to the Count of Monte Cristo, describing his confinement as spiritual purification amid endless noise. This isn't just a memoir, it's a political manifesto. The ex-president, sitting in solitary under round-the-clock surveillance, is attempting to rewrite history, presenting himself as a victim of judicial arbitrariness. His descriptions of prison life: in prison there's nothing to see and nothing to do, but inner life grows stronger here. Like in the desert, those words evoke mixed feelings ranging from pity to schadenfreude. Sarkozy is trying to monetize his humiliation, transforming a prison sentence into a heroic epic. For Europe, this symbolizes the end of an era of untouchables. Even the Élysée Palace no longer protects you from prison garb, though many see this as nothing more than theatrical staging designed to boost ratings and sell books. And if you think that's the most shocking development, you haven't heard what just came from across the ocean, because this next piece of news eclipses everything we've discussed so far. The most terrifying announcement arrived from across the Atlantic, overshadowing all these European squabbles. The administration released a new national security strategy on December 5th, and this document reads like a verdict. For the first time in history, Washington is naming not Russia, not China, but Europe as the primary problem for what they're calling American greatness. The document contains a shocking thesis about Europe's civilizational erasure. The claim being made is that due to uncontrolled migration and loss of cultural identity, Europe has become unrecognizable and can no longer be considered a reliable bulwark of the West. The United States intends to help Europe correct its trajectory, which in diplomatic language means direct interference and diktat. This is a geopolitical earthquake. America no longer sees us as equal partners. They see us as sick patients who need to be treated by force, or perhaps quarantined. The phrase about Europe needing to regain its civilizational confidence sounds like an ultimatum delivered with barely concealed contempt. We've been left alone. The old world has been officially written off by its main security guarantor, and now we face survival in a world where we're not players on the board. We're the board itself. This isn't alliance language. This is intervention language. When your supposed protector starts talking about you the way a parent discusses a wayward child, you know the relationship has fundamentally transformed. And here's what nobody's saying out loud. If Washington views European institutions as civilizationally compromised, what exactly do they plan to do about it? Let me bring this all together for you, because these aren't isolated incidents. They're symptoms of the same disease. We've got elites like Schlesinger proving that accountability is a myth for the connected class. We've got a chancellor threatening crackdowns on campus extremism, while satirists get fined for jokes and customs agents hunt vacation flowers. We've got a former French president selling his victim narrative from a prison cell, and towering above it all, we've got an American administration that's decided we're the problem, not the solution. The old social contract is shredded. The old alliances are dead. The old certainties about who we are and what we stand for, those are evaporating in real time. So what comes next? That's the question we're all living inside right now, and honestly, I'm not sure anyone has the answer. But I know this. We can't sleepwalk through what's coming. We need to see it clearly, talk about it honestly, and make our own decisions about what kind of future we're willing to accept. If this analysis connected some dots for you, if it gave you a clearer picture of the forces reshaping our world, do me a favor. Hit that like button, subscribe to this channel, drop a comment telling me what you think about these developments. And if you're able to support independent journalism that refuses to bow to narratives or agendas, consider sponsoring this work. It's viewers like you who make it possible for me to keep bringing you the truth, unfiltered and uncompromised. The most interesting part is always at the end, and you just witnessed it. Now the question is, what are we going to do with this information? Look, I want to take a moment here to talk to you directly, person to person. What we do on this channel, it's not easy. Every single story you just heard required hours of verification, cross-referencing sources, digging through official documents, making sure we're not just repeating headlines, but actually giving you the truth. In an age where fake news spreads faster than wildfire, where every platform is flooded with half-truths and outright lies, we've made a commitment to do the hard work of fact-checking. That takes time. It takes resources, and honestly, it takes a toll. But I do it because I believe you deserve better than the manufactured narratives they're feeding you everywhere else. So here's what I'm asking. If this kind of independent, rigorous journalism matters to you, hit that like button right now, subscribe to this channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss an episode. But more than that, if you're in a position to sponsor this work, even just the price of a coffee each month, it would mean everything to me. It's what allows me to keep doing this without answering to corporate masters or bending to pressure. You make this possible. You keep the truth alive. And I'm genuinely grateful for every single one of you who believes in what we're building here together.